All right. So we should be good. If you're ready, I'll do the intro and we'll jump into it.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Cool. Here we go. And it's Madeline, right?
Madeleine, or you could say Maddie.
Maddie. Okay. Got it. Awesome. All right. Here we go. Welcome back to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Maddie Kate. How's it going today?
It's going really well. I'm happy to be here. How's it going with you?
Happy to have you here as well. Sorry. Something started feeding back in my headphone, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm hearing two voices. But excited to have you on. And yeah. So for anybody that's just kind of getting to meet you, we're going to just kind of jump right into it here. What's kind of your background story? What got you into music?
So, I am from a very little town that doesn't, we had an amazing band program and we were
Mm.
really lucky for that. And that fostered my love of music. Also, I was from the country. Like, I lived in this little place called Linton, Indiana. And so I kind of was around country music, but then Taylor Swift debuted.
Yeah.
And just like many singer-songwriters of my age, that changed my world. I started writing poetry, learning to play guitar, and that eventually led me to Belmont University in Nashville,
Yeah.
where I went for 4 years and I graduated with a music business degree. And I learned so much there that I couldn't where I was from. And
Yeah.
just being in Nashville, the place that I watched every show, every CMA Awards, I was just so excited to even have the chance to be here. And now I've been here 8 years.
Nice. Nice. How's obviously over the last 8 years, Nashville has changed. I haven't been to Nashville in about 2 years, and I'm sure it's changed even within those 2 years. How's Nashville kind of changed you as a musician?
So in Nashville, you're never going to be the best. And some people, that scares them and they leave. That's enough to break the dream. That to me was amazing because I knew I could always learn and be better.
Hmm.
And going back to Taylor Swift, I won't talk about her the whole time, but she has this quote I've held on to that if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Hmm.
And that's kind of how I feel in Nashville in general. Everybody's so creative, everybody's lovely. The most that has really changed, though, is Nashville is becoming less about music,
Mm.
um, which is heartbreaking to see. I mean, it's amazing. I moved here. I can't say anything.
Yeah.
But they are making laws like to or ordinances that live music can't be played anymore past 11 p.m. Um, because of people that are moving in. So that's like the biggest change I've seen. And musicians are more in the suburbs instead of in Nashville now, but it still has that heart of music and
Yeah.
especially of country music. But I think it's with more people moving here, one good change is that it's bringing in all different genres. Like there's
Yeah.
a rock scene now, there's a rap scene, a pop scene. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's the last time I was in Nashville. I really because the first I've only been to Nashville for an extended period twice. The first time I went, it was a lot of singer song. I was working with a lot of singer songwriters, or I guess you could technically consider them country musicians, but it was like country singer songwriter, that kind of genre. It was a lot of what I was working with. And then the last time that I went, it was a such a diverse crowd of musicians, and we're talking the time span between the two visits were like 16 months. It went from like predominantly singer songwriter to like we had rock bands, we had singer songwriter, we had country, we had we didn't get a chance to work with a couple of them, but there were a couple of hip hop acts that were coming through, and it was just like, wow, Nashville has diversified so much. It is cool. So
It is. One of my best friends worked for a blues bar for a while,
yeah.
and it's just awesome. There's so many talented musicians that are from all genres, and I love seeing that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess that's the cool thing about Nashville in general. Like this, the music industry is kind of there. and there's going to be that friction because it's kind of happening in Texas a little bit where you have one thing conflicting with the other thing, and I think it's going to take a little time for Nashville to kind of figure out what's going to happen, but I think in the end it'll be mostly for the better. I'm not going to say all for the better. So
I think
um
so too. I think it'll calm down a bit and then kind of reconfigure.
yeah, yeah. So going back home to southern Indiana in that area, obviously you'd mentioned that you were really lucky because you had a really good music program in school. And I think that was kind of the one thing that Illinois public schools and Indiana public schools had in common was really, at least when I was going to school in the 90s. When my sister went a little bit later, it was a little bit of a different story, but at least in the 90s, we had like really good arts programs, music, stuff of that nature. Um, who who was kind of the driving force in those early stages? Was it more family? Was it more because of school? Who's kind of that driving force early on?
So I was very lucky. I had both. I was the first child and grandchild
Mm,
of my family, and my little sister's the second. She's 7 years younger than me. So it's quite a gap.
mm,
So I was kind of entertaining my family growing up, and they really fostered that. My mom's side cannot sing at all, which that's not like a dig. They know it.
yeah.
So the fact that I could sing really excited them. And my parents, I'm very lucky because where I'm from, creativity is not really seen as a good attribute. It just kind of doesn't matter. But both
Mhm.
of my parents really fostered that. My mom's a teacher, but she was also like the school librarian, and she has her master's degree and is totally awesome and loves encouraging people. And my dad was in a band in his younger years and kind of taught me the first parts of guitar.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky. And then once I got into band, like in the fifth grade, I was at a small enough area that I had the same band director from fifth grade through
Yeah.
pretty much all high school. He ended up retiring my senior year, but he was the band program.
Yeah.
He really fostered it. His name was Mr. Puckett, and he was strict on us, but in that way that like when your mentor is strict on you, it makes you better, and everybody knew that.
Mhm.
And he always talked about music like it was the love of his life, and he really encouraged all of us to follow what we wanted to do and
Mhm.
not the status quo of where we lived.
Yeah.
So that was really important to me.
Yeah. I think those kind of teachers or those kind I won't even say teachers, I'll just say those kind of mentors are so important because in a similar situation where growing up in South Chicago, where it's a very industrial place, and it could have been very easy for me to just go work at the steel mill or fall in line and go work, in an industrial place like that. I also had a very similar situation with teachers saying, "Hey, this isn't the end all be all. You can go wherever it is you want to go. You just got to find that thing." And it's really encouraging that seems like you had a very similar situation. You had a teacher that was like, hey, yes, this is the status quo here, but you can go wherever you want to go. You don't have to fall in line.
Yes, and I've always said this is really random, but if I ever got into a lot of money, I would love to make a nonprofit
Yeah.
where I grew up and name it after him,
Mm,
because that was like the influence he had on the whole community. Because band, it's very rare that band's the most popular thing in high school, but
yeah.
it was when I was in high school.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. It's rare that that happens, but when it does, it's really cool. So going through the music program, obviously you had this influential teacher or mentor. It had Taylor Swift not come along. Where do you think your music would have gone, or how do you think things would kind of be different?
That's a hard one, because I started being a huge fan of her in the 5th grade. So
Yeah.
she really
Okay.
shaped things. I still think that I would have gotten here. Because
Yeah.
I've thought about that in my mind a lot. She definitely encouraged me, especially through songs like Mean when I was
Yeah.
younger. Because I was like in the 8th grade when that came out, I was not popular. That's okay. So those songs kind of like, okay, this small town isn't the end of the world, like I
Yeah.
can move, but I still loved people like Casey Musgraves who had similar messages, Dolly Parton,
Mhm.
um, a lot, like Miranda Lambert. So I
Yeah.
think I still would have gotten here because before her, I loved Hannah Montana. So it's like I always had that love of music and songwriting.
Mhm.
As she just helped it click a little quicker, I think.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I tend to forget how long Taylor Swift's kind of been around because I was in like I was like 18 when when I started seeing people like really getting behind Taylor Swift. And so it's just kind of like, oh yeah, she's been around for a lot of years. So
Oh yeah, a long time. And I loved Teardrops on My Guitar because I had a crush. That poor guy. I had a crush on this kid named Drew. And so it was like bam. And
yeah,
she sold me ever since.
fair, fair, very fair. Oh, so you ended up leaving Southern Indiana and going to Nashville, which is what is that, like a 3, 4 hour drive?
It's 4 hours.
4 hours, which is actually a pretty good like range because you're like far enough away from home that people just can't like randomly show up without calling you, which has kind of always been my thing. It's like, yeah, that's a good call. How, so going through school and stuff in Nashville, you said you graduated with a music business degree, or
Yes. So for people that it's kind of weird. When I was in college and I'd go home and they'd ask me, "What are you studying?"
yeah,
And I said music business, they were like, "What does that even mean?"
yeah,
But Belmont, it's a really good program. You actually graduate with a bachelor's of business administration because they make
mhm,
you take all of the general business classes too.
yeah,
But it's focused on the music industry and more specifically Nashville.
mhm,
They do have like LA and New York campuses you can
yeah,
go to for a semester, which is really awesome. But I studied basically, I took classes on how to manage a venue, how to produce a demo, like just it seemed almost like a Disney show, to be honest. It was very random. We had people that were in the music industry that were
mhm,
our professors, which was really cool. Um, and that's where I learned so
mhm,
much. I would have had no background. I'm grateful for them. I can read a contract. I can talk on an interview without being nervous. I can perform better, know the publishing world.
yeah,
And I did it at first more for the business part of it. And then I've kind of leaned more into the artist side. But I
yeah,
think that it is important, especially if you're an indie artist, you need to learn these things.
yeah.
You can learn them on YouTube and stuff, but I was lucky enough to be able to go to Belmont, which I will always appreciate.
Yeah, having a at least a basic understanding of what you're signing up for. Like, yes, I obviously if you're entering into a contract, have lawyers and all that stuff look it over, but having a base knowledge of looking it over and being able to be like, okay, this is for me, this looks like a good contract, or like just being able to do like a quick look over to decide, okay, is this even worth taking to a lawyer? Just kind of having a basic understanding is always a good thing. And the fact that you were able to kind of do that in Belmont is really cool. And the fact that they kind of have that program available where it's not where you're getting a basic business, like a basic understanding of business in general with an emphasis in music is actually really smart. So um kind of looking after graduating, is that when did you kind of start releasing music? Was it after you graduated school
It,
or?
yeah, it was after I graduated school. I had been writing the whole time I was in school, but I I had pause. I wanted to do more of the business side.
Mhm,
For some reason in my mind, I didn't think I could do both. And really, this my favorite part of music is the songwriting.
mhm,
So the short story is I graduated in 2019. I applied to way too many music business jobs and went to interviews. It's a very hard industry to get into. And so I started working at Target after graduation. Then the pandemic hit.
mhm,
And so of course, every entertainment, everything shut down. Um, actually, looking back, I feel really lucky because a lot of my peers had to move home because they were laid off. They were that entry level.
yeah.
But I worked at Target and I couldn't, I'm the type of person that I don't, I'm kind of a control freak on certain things, like my career. I'm
Mm,
working on it, which is what my recent song that I have out now is about. But I stress myself out so much with trying to get into the music business as a business person that I eventually had to learn that lesson the hard way of calm down. And so I started releasing old music, old demos that I had written when I was younger. And then to kind of survive mentally and emotionally while working a few years at Target during the pandemic, I started writing tons of music. And then I
mhm,
thought, okay, this is really what my love is. I want to lean into this. And I had an album I produced myself called Resilient,
mm,
and I'm really proud of the lyrical content on that album. And I'm getting better at production as I go. But after that, I started writing more and more, like 30 songs about transformation and growth and whatever. And have kind of all of that made me look back on my life and reevaluate my self worth, which led me to quitting my job with no backup plan at Target, which I think I needed to kind of get things moving. That's kind of a weird, it was like the energy was stagnant.
mhm.
And then I wrote my song called Rose Colored Glasses, and it got 20,000 streams. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I did get another 40-hour a week job that I actually really, really love, but I am pursuing the artist thing as my main career.
For sure, for sure. And when I think it's one of those things where you kind of need to take that of leap of faith, like whatever it is you want to call it, and you never know what's going to happen on the other side. And it kind of obviously the pandemic was what it was. It was a very tumultuous time for a lot of people. It was a lot of time of uncertainty. And so kind of having that target job or having that job just to kind of pay the bills because I don't know what it was like in Nashville during the pandemic because obviously I wasn't there, but it seemed like if it was like anywhere else, it was a lot of not normal situations of playing music, like you couldn't play inside or whatever it was. Um, but I'm really proud of you to kind of once everything kind of settled down, be like, okay, this is my passion. I've taken the time. This is what I want to do. Let's jump into it full bore. So,
Yeah, me too. I think I always would have ended up here. I could songwrite, like I could write songs all day, every day. That's actually my favorite
yeah,
part. I could even write for other people. I don't care. I just love that.
yeah,
But I am grateful. Target was the worst job I've ever had, but I really found myself and who I wanted to be. And I found really, really great friends there. So I'll always be grateful for
yeah,
it.
for sure. What was it about rose-colored glasses, in your opinion, that it was just kind of like it feels like that was almost the tipping point for you as a musician. What do you think it was about that song?
I think that song, I was just, I think a lot of people felt the same way.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like a sarcastic song because my dad, he always says like what he thinks. And before he even hears my song, sometimes he has an opinion. But he's like, oh, a song called Rose Colored Glasses. Never heard that before. And I'm like, but dad, it flips it on its head. Like, it's a song that is like, oh my gosh, I am so tired of the world. Like, it's so dark right now. I'm depressed. I need to change my life. So I'm going to put them on willingly and try to see things in a better light.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of people can, especially coming out of the pandemic, can
yeah,
relate to that. It's been a very confusing, dark time. And I think just being totally honest in the feeling of it and having a catchy chorus, people could hang on to that and relate to it.
for sure, for sure. And then, of course, obviously, after rose-colored glasses, you were really busy last year, which is cool to kind of see like that success roll into another one and then another one. And then now it leads us up to What Do I Know, which is your most recent single, which you released on Thursday,
Wednesday. I know
Wednesday.
it was weird. It was a weird release date. But I wanted it close to New Year's without
Yeah.
it being on New Year's because it's kind of like an anti-resolution song in a way.
Sure. How long have you been working on this song?
um I'm kind of one of those people that if I have a good song in me and I'm inspired, I can write it in like 10, 20 minutes.
Oh, well, nice.
Yeah, I'm a writer. That's but so I did that and then I worked on producing it for about 3 or 4 days, just intense hyper focus.
Mhm.
And then I guess it's kind of been in the consciousness about a month now.
Okay.
But I guess for those who haven't listened to it, the idea of the song is I am honest, I call myself out. I'm 27 now, but growing up I was always a really anxious kid, anxious person. I thought if I made one mistake, my whole life would be ruined, which like is not healthy. So figure that out if that's you. But I was always so goal oriented that I didn't just enjoy the moments I was in.
Yeah.
And the last few years have taught me to just enjoy the happiness in the moment. And that's what this song's about. It's all these, our culture really, really wants us to always be grinding, like making money, getting fame, getting followers. But sometimes you just need to be like, life's a mess. Nobody has it fully together. And just live in the moment. It was a big, big thing I needed to learn.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of an important lesson just in general for anybody to kind of find that I don't want to say even balance, but that's kind of what it is. It's like, yes, you want to be working towards your goals, but when things just aren't working or aren't, like I guess aren't working is the best way to describe it. Maybe sometimes you just need to take a step back and reevaluate.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of how Rose Colored Glasses was for me. I love that song, and it was the first song I released without being like, okay, I need to promote it this much, and I need to do all this and this and this, and if it doesn't hit this, then I need to switch this. I just enjoyed it, like, oh, it's
Yeah.
fun. And that's kind of when things seem to happen when you're not trying to force it.
Yeah.
And so I did write What Do I Know kind of after that rose colored glasses
Yeah.
experience, where it's like, you know, I've done all the music industry things, but then when I just relaxed, then it worked. Like,
Yeah. 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 And I think that has to do with just doing stuff that's authentic for you and just kind of being who you are as a person and not trying to be not to flip the song on its head again, but trying to present yourself in these rose-colored glasses like you're this person that you're not really are, but just kind of being authentic to yourself and just if you're having a bad day, guess what? People have bad days. If you're a mess today, but like that's just what it is. And I think a lot of people just kind of resonate with that and they just kind of connect when people are being honest with who they are instead of always trying to be the best PR version of themselves.
Yes, and I've realized that with my social media recently too. I was trying to present cooler than I
Yeah,
am and like
yeah,
a brand, and that people don't relate to that. I never related to that.
yeah,
One reason I liked Taylor Swift in the early days was she was this awkward teenage girl
yeah,
that would kind of get confused in interviews and do an awkward laugh like that. And that's who I am. I'm goofy and
yeah.
kind of awkward. So I need to just be that instead of trying so hard.
Yeah. And it's funny you bring all that up because, you know, I've been trying really hard to like be more active on like social media and stuff over the last year. And so like I'll like very thought-provokingly like just like post certain things. And some of my best stuff is just like so I had COVID right before or right during Christmas. So I had like COVID and I was out for like a week and a half. And there's one day where I was just like barely had enough energy to do anything. I just took like a random snapshot of me like passed out or passed, I kind of passed out and I just put, well, at least had enough energy to take a shower today. And that was it. And it had like more shit, like it just had so much more activity than anything else that I had spent like hours trying to think about posting. And I'm like, huh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe, and so, yeah,
I think it is. I think people are getting tired of the mirage.
yeah,
I think authenticity is getting rare now,
yeah,
which I think is why TikTok is so popular and why it's blown up is
yeah,
people aren't trying like they are on Instagram. They're just
yeah,
like, this is a story from my life where it's really awful and then it goes viral. But I
yep.
like that shift.
Yeah, it's cool, and I think especially like this is something that musicians or just like people that run like businesses or brands or whatever, if you start treating it more like your personal Instagram instead of a professional Instagram, I think that's when you're going to start to see that shift kind of happen of, oh, hey, this isn't just like an automated robot posting this stuff. This is a real human being, and when they message me, it's actually them.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
um, so with What Do I Know? It's out now. It's been out for a few days. How's the reception been?
It's been good. I've had people text me and message me and say that I know exactly what you mean. I'm way too hard on myself. This is a good reminder. I had a childhood friend that
Mm,
texted me and was like, I love your new song. I cried because she's known me that long, where she remembers what I'm talking about. And she's like, I've cried because of your growth and I'm so happy for you. And those messages are the best. So, yeah, I feel like I'm trying to not look at the numbers yet
mm,
because things take a few days or
yeah,
a few weeks
yeah.
sometimes to get moving. But the important thing is that people relate and they like it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Are you so with it out now? Obviously, you mentioned that you're trying to let the song kind of be what it is and let traction kind of take place. Where's kind of your head at right now? Are you already looking at the next project? Are you just kind of taking a step back and just kind of enjoying your time? Where's kind of your head at right now?
So I'm always looking at the next project, but I am enjoying this. I'm really going to try to promote this song in the way I think it deserves to be.
Mm,
But I have a 17 song album coming out either late April or early May.
Nice. And is it like everything's like set with that, or were you kind of at there?
So I'm finishing recording it right now.
Mhm.
Um, it's called Wildflower. It's all about it's basically looking back on my life and figuring out how I got here, like the
Mm.
good and the bad, like
Yeah,
who am I?
yeah,
And stories from that, stories about my friends and what they've went through the last few years.
yeah,
And the album itself is kind of centered around if you do your work, you follow your dreams, you try to heal yourself,
yeah,
you will be incredibly happy. And other people might not see your worth or your value, but that doesn't really matter. Because some people think that wildflowers are weeds,
mhm,
and some people think that they're beautiful, resilient things. So there's a lot of flower metaphors, but not too many. Not
yeah.
where it's like, oh, this is. But I'm really excited about it. This is definitely my best songwriting.
Nice.
In my opinion, almost every single song is thought provoking in a different way. So I'm really excited about it.
That's cool. That's really cool. And this will be your third album, correct?
Yeah, my first was kind of a mixtape of demos
Hmm.
that I just put out to get something out there. My second was Resilient, which was released about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Nice. And so is all the singles that you've released last year, and then What Do I Know, are those all on this album, or are those standalone projects in this album something completely different?
So those are going to be on this album.
Okay.
But yeah, 17 songs, so there's still going to be a lot of new ones, almost a
Gotcha.
full album of new songs, so that'll be fun.
That's really cool. I like to clarify that because, it's always interesting kind of taking the approach into a full length project. Do you release singles? Don't you release singles? And I think everybody kind of has a different thought process behind it. So I was kind of curious.
It is. I'm an album girl. I would love to just release like the album and not do the singles, but with Spotify and just the culture,
Hmm.
it is smart to release them because then you'll get more. Spotify will often help you out more, indie
Yeah.
artists, if you're releasing more. So I try to go with that, but it's also fun to kind of
Nice.
lay the foundation of where the album will go.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And how long is the album? Obviously since 2023, but prior to that, when did you start coming up with the idea for the album?
Probably 20, actually, definitely 2021.
Okay.
I started writing the first part of it when I was releasing Resilient.
Okay.
Almost like a manifestation. I wanted my life to get better and kind of not that my life was bad, but I had some goals I wanted to do and I wanted my mental health to be better. So it's almost like a sister project without
Yeah,
officially being. It's like this is who you are, you're resilient in your bad times, but what made you be.
that's really cool. That's really cool. I'm glad that you've got another project coming up and you're just ready to jump right into it. So with all this going on, how often are you playing shows right now, or is that something you're doing pretty
Um,
consistently, or
I play shows about once a month. I need to be going out and doing it more. Uh, but like I said, like the songwriting is my favorite part, so
yeah,
I often get way too caught up in that. But I definitely want to be playing out more this year.
gotcha. And in Nashville, it's kind of one of them cool places, like we had mentioned, where it you could play as much or as little as you want, and it's still pretty cool. So
It
yeah,
is. It's a lot of fun. I play a lot of writers' rounds, and that's always fun to hear other people's stuff
yeah,
and get to know them. And I've done a few of my own shows, especially last summer, and
yeah.
I enjoy that too.
Nice, 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 cool. So kind of taking a step outside of music and just as Maddie Kate, as a person, what are you doing when you need to escape? What are some of your hobbies outside of the industry?
Well, I like to run, and which not a lot of people do, but it's a good stress reliever. I like being outside and listening to music. I like to go hiking. I have two really cute dogs that are rescues.
Nice.
They take a lot of my time. And I like to just listen to music and podcast all the
Nice.
time.
Nice. And I you brought up podcasts. I was listening to the your two separate podcasts that you released in 20, what was it, 2022, right? Or last
Yeah,
year? Because I was listening to the stories of the 615,
yeah,
right?
stories from the 615.
That was good time. Like, I mean, I would really like to see you, if you like, obviously timing and all that stuff is very important and having availability and all that, but if there was ever a project to kind of resurrect, I really did enjoy that. So
Thank you. Yeah, that was my best friend, one of my best friends, Ace.
yeah,
We made that project together and we had a lot of fun, but our schedules got so different. They were working as an audio engineer
yeah,
at a bar
yeah,
overnight, and then I was working mornings, so it got kind of
hectic.
complicated.
Yeah, I got you. And
But
then
maybe one day.
didn't you do a standalone project or a podcast by yourself? Or
Yeah, I did, and I'm hoping to resurrect that soon. It
yeah,
was like stories behind the music. So I
yeah,
talked about my songs and why I wrote them.
yeah, that's really cool. That's something that's so outside the box as far as like different ways to promote your music. Yes, it's another thing that you have to promote, but it's a promotion within a promotion, which is kind of cool. And it definitely look at bringing that back, because the couple that I got to listen to was really cool.
Well, thank you. And that was my plan. That's a resolution this year.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. And then kind of looking forward, obviously you got the album coming up. You got a lot going on right now, which is really cool. Um, what's kind of your motivator right now? What's keeping you motivated?
Right now, honestly, I'm at a point in my life where I'm married. I have a really great relationship with my husband. I have my dogs. I live right outside my dream city, and I have a job that I love, but I'm not scraping the bottom of the barrel
Yeah,
like I was for a few years. It's just like the love of doing it right now,
yeah,
which is special because that's always is at the heart of it.
yeah.
But I'm not like trying to get more exposure or do any of this. I'm just enjoying the ride
Mhm.
and loving it. So that's special, and I'm excited about that because it's not always that way.
Nice. That's cool. I'm glad. I'm glad things are kind of starting to. I say kind of starting to click, but I'm glad that they're starting to click for you, and you're starting to build momentum and heading into your we'll call it third album, because I know you said the first one was kind of more of a demo, uh, collection of demos and whatnot, but kind of carrying all this momentum into your third album. I'm really excited to see where things go with for you, and just kind of how things kind of unfold here in 2024.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed meeting you, and I can't wait to keep in touch too.
Yeah, absolutely. So if for anybody that wants to follow or interact with you on social, listen to your music as the new stuff comes out, or just kind of see what you got going on, where's the best place to find you?
I'm on all social media at musical mad Kate because my name's kind of hard to spell, so that's just easier. You could also find everything at musicalmadkate.com or not musical, Madeleine Kate on all streaming.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time. And, it was kind of interesting how we just kind of connected on Instagram, and, we were able to get this podcast lined up pretty quickly, all things considered. And really appreciate you. Really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me this morning. And we will catch you all later.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. All right. Hold on one sec. Where's my buttons? Here they are. Stop recording. All right. Cool. Oh, nope, don't want to do that. All right.